On this episode of Cape Media News, curbing gun-related violence in Massachusetts, Independence House receives federal funding, and lessons learned from the pandemic-fueled housing market surge. These stories and more tonight on Cape Media News. Good evening and welcome to Cape Media News, your source for hyperlocal news that matters. I'm Maxie Davidson. Gun violence is on the rise nationwide, and while Massachusetts gun deaths have held steady over the last decade, state officials are striving to bring those numbers down. 31st Middlesex District Representative Michael Day has been tasked with conducting a comprehensive review of Massachusetts gun laws. As part of that review, Representative Day is conducting a statewide listening tour, which kicked off last week right here on Cape Cod. With a focus on gun-related suicides, Representative Day gathered a panel of experts to speak on the subject. With more on this, here's Cape Media News' Christian Garnett.
The Massachusetts legislature is conducting a listening tour to explore the crossroads of firearms and suicide, and ultimately decrease the pervasiveness of gun suicide in Massachusetts, as suicide is the leading cause of gun-related deaths in our state.
I'd like to start by asking, what is this listening tour?
It's the kickoff of a statewide listening tour we in the legislature are conducting to really do a deep dive on our firearms laws. It was born of a Supreme Court decision that disrupted some of our existing licensing schemes here in Massachusetts. And what it revealed to us was that we've got a fairly complex system. It, for my money, is the best in the country. We've got the lowest incidence of firearm-related deaths in the continental United States. But obviously, we can always do better. There are far too many firearm-related deaths.
The first stop on this listening tour was the Tilden Auditorium at Cape Cod Community College in West Barnstable on Thursday, February 9th.
And we're hearing from responsible gun owners in Massachusetts as well that the laws are conflicting, they're confusing, and they need to be reassessed. This tour is really going to touch on every aspect of the Commonwealth, every geographic part of the Commonwealth, and hopefully with about a dozen stops, just about every topic we can imagine with respect to gun safety and gun regulations.
State Representative Michael Day hosted the event, and the panelists for the discussion were Barnstable Police Chief Matthew Sonnabend, Ellen Dalton, founder and CEO of the NAN Project, Karen Ellery Jones, Assistant Director at Samaritans of Cape Cod and the Islands, and Kelly Cunningham, Director of the Division of Violence and Injury Prevention from the Massachusetts Department of Public Health.
It did seem overall a positive approach to the problem.
So again, we think it's timely. We've seen the rise of mass shootings that are almost becoming commonplace in the news. We believe that is directly attributable to mental health issues. That's an area that we have been lacking in the state. We've been getting better. The legislature has been turning its full attention to, I think, correcting years of decline in our mental health system. And so we believe it's timely to always re-examine our laws, and particularly our firearms laws, to make sure they make sense, to make sure they're consistent, to make sure they're doing what we hope they do, which is to keep people safe.
The comments, accusations, and backlash from some audience members showed that many of the attending gun owners were displeased with the event and feared that this tour and Representative Day were a threat to gun ownership.
So for you to tie this to guns, you politicians, for you to manipulate the good people on that stage is disgusting. Suicide is a mental health issue, and this state isn't addressing it. Shame on you.
But Representative Day, Police Chief Sonnabend, and the rest of the panelists attempted to assure the visitors that taking away the right to guns has never been the goal of the statewide tour.
To allow responsible gun owners to continue to pursue their enjoyments, right, hunters and collectors, and to make sure that firearms are not getting into the hands of those who cannot responsibly handle them.
The crowd was not all in opposition to the discussion, and multiple speakers expressed their thanks to the panel for taking this topic so seriously. A third party existed at the discussion, though, in the form of a college student who lost her own sister to gun suicide. In her speech, she posited that the issue of gun suicide could not just be assuaged by tighter gun control, but required more psychological support for teens and young adults during their tenure as students.
And in November of 2020, I lost my little sister, Nicole, to suicide by firearm. She was 26. The thing that I heard talked about the most tonight was to ask people if they're suicidal and to help them. But what I did not hear talked about at all tonight is what you do if they say yes. What I did hear talked about tonight is how there's a backlog of mental health availability.
Supplementing that student's claim was a statement by Kelly Cunningham, where she urged the crowd to not be afraid of discussing suicide, depression, and other issues discussed at the panel.
It's important for us to, if we see somebody struggling, to ask that person, are you feeling suicidal? That's not going to put the thought into someone's head. Instead, we're giving them that hope, we're giving them that sense of maybe belief that somebody is hearing them.
Part of it is listening to the people of Massachusetts. We're doing, as I said, 12 stops around the Commonwealth to make sure that everyone's got a chance to come out and share their thoughts with us. Obviously, welcoming folks to contact us in the legislature as well. Go to malegislature.gov, find your rep, find myself, and send us your thoughts. So I think what you heard last night from those who were concerned about intrusion on their gun ownership, as well as those, excuse me, who wanted to focus more on mental health, was a common thread of we need to do a better job in Massachusetts on mental health as a whole. There were some sensitivities that this particular event focused on only on firearms with respect to suicide. That is what it focused on, right? This is the tour of the intersection, at least last night, the intersection between firearm deaths and suicide. We can always do better. And I think you heard last night was some frustration across the political spectrum.
Right.
We need to be doing a better job here. And I don't think anyone disagrees with that.
I would just like to ask if there's anything that you learned from the community or from the panelists or any discussions that you had yesterday about the topic of gun control.
Yeah, I thought it was incredibly valuable, to be honest, to hear some of the concerns from the community. And you heard from the Samaritans that one of the most important things to do when you are afraid somebody's battling a mental health crisis or has suicidal ideation is to ask them and talk about it openly and honestly. The more we do that, I think, the better we're all going to be. I'm
Christian Garnett, and this is Cape Media News.
The full panel is now available to watch on the Cape Media Center YouTube channel. With the support of Massachusetts Senators Elizabeth Warren, Edward Markey, and Congressman William Keating representing the 9th District in Massachusetts, Independence House has been awarded $3.46 million as part of the omnibus spending bill of the Consolidated Appropriations Act. News Director Mitch Sock has more.
Independence House, Cape Cod's leading domestic and sexual violence emergency housing resource, counseling, and advocacy center, held a press conference Thursday morning with U.S. Congressman Bill Keating.
Because we're here not only to announce a grant announcement, but we're here together as members of Congress, as law enforcement officials here, as the people on the ground in this leading facility for domestic violence and intimate partner abuse. Not only to talk about the grant, but also to talk about the issue itself.
Domestic and sexual violence reporting has increased in the past few years nationwide. Independence House Executive Director Lisetta Hirsch-Putnam spoke to this.
I think there's so much more awareness, and I know that during COVID, the numbers went up as well. So I don't know if it's an increase or just more reporting. So I think it's important to be mindful of that. So for example, I just discussed the university, the Michigan study. There's a 15-fold increase in sexual assault in the ER, and this is national. This is, a national increase. So is there increase on the Cape? Yes, absolutely, yeah.
On December 22nd, the omnibus spending bill of the Consolidated Appropriations Act was passed by the Senate, followed by the passing on December 23rd by the House of Representatives. President Biden signed the bill into law on December 29th. As part of that bill, Independence House was awarded $3.46 million in federal funding.
This award is momentous and transformative for us because it provides us with funding that we did not previously have. We will have sufficient space to expand and provide all of our crucial life-saving services in a building that survivors are deserving of. We will have upgraded security and privacy and a welcoming entry and exterior for survivors and visitors.
The award is the largest single award out of 21 projects in the state and has support from both Senator Warren and Senator Markey. Representatives of both senators were present at the press conference to read statements.
I fought alongside Senator Markey and Congressman Keating to secure this funding, and I'll keep making sure the federal government is a strong partner for Independence House and organizations across Cape Cod and the Commonwealth that do crucial work in our communities.
Really here to thank you, Lisetta, and your entire team for your tireless work providing for victims and survivors of sexual and domestic violence as they help to heal, recover, and thrive.
For those interested in learning more about the work Independence House does for the community, visit their website at independencehouse.org. For Cape Media News, I'm Mitch Sock.
On December 28, 2022, Barnstable Police responded to a report of gunshots fired in a parking lot in the rear of 200 Main Street in Hyannis. Upon arrival, officers found an adult male suffering from multiple non-fatal gunshot wounds. Another male with the shooting victim was not injured. According to witnesses, the shooting occurred moments beforehand in a nearby parking lot on Crocker Street. The Barnstable Police Department, working in conjunction with the Barnstable County Sheriff Department's Bureau of Criminal Investigation, swiftly identified two suspects. On January 28th, a warrant was issued for the suspected shooter, Kyle Mugford. The Barnstable Police Department searched several known areas for Mugford over the following weeks to no avail. Last month, authorities in Louisville, Kentucky, located Kyle Mugford and placed him into custody. Officers with the Barnstable Police Department traveled to Kentucky last week to escort Mugford back to face the charges involved with the shooting. District Attorney Rob Galaboy offered this comment. Thank you to several members of the Barnstable Patrol and Detective Divisions for their unwavering determination to locate Kyle Mugford and return him back to our jurisdiction to face the charges. On February 10th, Judge Therese Wright of the Barnstable District Court granted the district attorney's motion for dangerousness hearing and ordered that Kyle Mugford be detained without bail. Kyle Mugford's next court date is on February 27th. More hyperlocal news that matters after the break.
Just one dinner at a restaurant will probably cost you about $30 and gives you a few hours of enjoyment at most. But what can $30 get you at the Cape Media Center? For just $30, you have full access to all our equipment and software here at the Media Center. That's right. Adobe Suite alone costs $55 per month, and that doesn't include all our cameras, microphones, training sessions, and iMac workstations. Do you need a studio, green screen, or podcast recording booth? We have those, and it's only $30. So if you've ever wanted to record a podcast or film your own movies, documentaries, or YouTube videos, the time is now and the place is the Cape Media Center. For more information, head to capemedia.org.
Hi, I'm Christian Garnett with the Cape Media Center, and today I'm here at the Taj Mahal, which is actually pronounced Taj Mahal. And here in India, there are many homeless dogs, which is commonplace here, but it doesn't need to be commonplace in Cape Cod. So, if you are looking for a new best friend, I suggest you head down to the Cape Cod branch of the MSPCA and find your new pet.
Interested in locally produced, independent films? Watch a wide variety of movies produced by Cape Cod filmmakers for free. On Channel 99, VOD, Roku, or Apple TV. Presented by the Cape Media Center.
Welcome back. Disaster can strike at any time, and being prepared is more important than ever. Last week, the Chatham Center for Active Living invited Chip Riley, an emergency preparedness specialist, to host a workshop on emergency preparedness. For more on this, here's Ryan Thompson.
You never know when disaster could strike. In an effort to prepare for potential emergencies, residents in Chatham attended an emergency preparedness workshop held by Barnstable County's emergency preparedness specialist, Chip Riley.
We've been graciously invited here to talk to some of the folks in town about emergency preparedness and what they can do to become a little more resilient, become a little more prepared for events that could happen. And that could be any kind of event, storms or natural events, technological events. Just try to give them some tips to not make it seem so scary when you think about emergency preparedness.
The workshop focused on providing attendees with valuable tips and insights to help them better prepare for the worst. Chip Riley provided guidance on how to build an emergency kit, create a plan, and stay informed about potential risks.
You'll hear, build a kit, build a kit. Well, what's a kit? Nobody knows what you need in an emergency kit better than you. Well, I always say, if you like Oreos, put your Oreos in your disaster kit. You put in there what makes you comfortable. If you need information, as part of being informed, you only want to go to government websites, whether it be the town of Chatham's website, the Barnstable County, MEMA, the state. You want to stay on trusted, known websites because there's a lot of scammers out there. And that way you can guarantee your information.
One of the big takeaways from the workshop was the importance of being prepared when it comes to medications, particularly for seniors.
The biggest takeaway we like to have for especially our seniors in communities across the Cape, is if you need to go somewhere, say whether it be you're evacuating to a shelter, you're going to a friend's house for a weekend, something happens, is don't forget your medications. So medication is the big one.
Riley also stressed the importance of building a support network to help individuals feel more comfortable and less scared during emergency situations.
Don't be afraid to ask for help is another big one. The more we can get folks to sort of build a support network, talk to friends, talk to neighbors, talk to family members. If you have alternative places to go rather than regional shelters or places in the community, the better off you're going to be, the more comfortable you're going to be, and the less scary it's going to be.
By listening to Chip Riley's advice, residents in Chatham left the workshop feeling more empowered and better prepared for potential emergencies. For more information, feel free to visit ready.gov or barnstablecountyhealth.org. For Cape Media News, I'm Ryan Thompson.
You can check out the full workshop right here on Channel 99. This weekend, the Yarmouth Chamber of Commerce, in partnership with the Yarmouth Recreation Department, will host its second winter carnival. The carnival will open on the 18th at 12 p.m. at Skull Island Adventure Golf. That's 934 Route 28 in South Yarmouth. There will be many family-friendly events and attractions, such as an outdoor synthetic ice rink, petting zoo, craft vendors, and food trucks. There will also be various artists from face painters, balloon animals, and custom caricatures. Make sure you stick around all weekend and catch one of the many shows and performers. There will be stilt walkers, magic shows, hula hoop, and fire shows, as well as a live performance from the Drumming Nomads. The event will charge $3 in admission, while children 6 and under are free. There will be s'more kits available for purchase for $2, but supplies are limited. Ice skating registration is open now and limited to 15 people per session. Sessions are 30 minutes long and can be registered at Yarmouth Recreation's line, 508-398-2231, extension 1520. A group from Yarmouth and Dennis have been researching Cape Cod and the American Revolution and have found Cape Cod was very involved in significant events. Local historian and author Duncan Oliver spoke at the Yarmouth Port Library last week about the Cape's role in the Boston Tea Party. With more on this, here's Ryan Downs.
Think you know about the Boston Tea Party? Think again. As 2023 marks the 250th anniversary of the Boston Tea Party, the Yarmouth Port Library and Historical Society of Old Yarmouth honored the occasion with the presentation of the true history of events that took place in 1773.
This year, we celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Boston Tea Party because the Dutch were the ones really that got the colonies interested in tea. Oh my God, says our favorite Englishman here. No, but it's true. The Dutch had more to do with getting us tea than the English did.
Local historian and author Duncan Oliver, along with individuals from the Historical Society of Old Yarmouth, have been researching Cape Cod and the American Revolution, finding many voids and inaccuracies.
We have a group that get together about once a month, and they're both Yarmouth and Dennis, and they're interested in original research. And that's where we came up with the 284 soldiers. Also the Marshfield and some of that. My thing has been working on the Somerset and what's happening. But we try to teach what's true about it, and the fact that we weren't all flag-waving patriots here. There was really 3 sides, and let people know the truth in the history.
While the research has shown Yarmouth was heavily involved in many significant events that history and America only known as the Boston Tea Party.
And as all of you know, there were 11 ships that came across from England loaded with East India tea. 4 came to Boston. Kind of tells you Boston's place in all of this. Only 3 made it to Boston. Where do you suppose the 4th went to? It wrecked on Cape Cod.
The 250th anniversary date of the Boston Tea Party isn't until December 16th. As the Historical Society continues to unravel what happened here in Yarmouth in 1773, they aim to have a more finalized history to share with the community by that date, when they host the celebration at the Pavilion at Bass Hole. For Cape Media News, I'm Ryan Downs.
Coming up after the break, a look at the week ahead and lessons learned from the pandemic-fueled housing market surge. Stay tuned. Buying a home can be stressful enough on its own, but the pandemic certainly added to the chaos. To discuss what buyers and sellers can learn from the pandemic-fueled housing surge, Cape Media News' Christian Garnett sat down with local real estate expert Livia Monteforte on this week's edition of Cape Media News Insights.
Hi, welcome to Cape Media News Insights. I'm Christian Garnett, here with Livia Monteforte. Hi.
Hi.
Could you tell us a bit about yourself and what you do here?
Absolutely. My name is Livia Monteforte. I am the team lead and vice president of the Freitas Monteforte Group at Compass. And Compass Real Estate is a national company that's all over the country, top agents performing in all the top markets.
It's not a surprise to anybody, especially you, that the housing market, especially here on Cape Cod, was very much shaken up by the pandemic.
Absolutely. We've seen an amazing surge in the housing market here on the Cape. Mm-hmm. And it was a huge transition from what it was previously. We were dealing with 6 months of inventory, and we dropped immediately. I think if this surge taught anyone anything, it's that the time to act is now. I know a lot of buyers and a lot of sellers have regrets that they didn't act soon enough, that they didn't make that bid on the house they really wanted. So what it's really helped people in living the life they've always wanted to live. It was always a distant dream to move to Cape Cod. The pandemic kind of sped that dream up. And what we're finding is people that are looking for their beach house, they're able to act now.
What makes Cape Cod so desirable?
A huge part of what makes the Cape so desirable, I think, is proximity to water. You know, negative ions are good for our health. You've got these beautiful beaches, sunsets, sand, sea, sun, everything that people want. But Cape Cod also offers this quintessential New England lifestyle. We've got beautiful towns, we've got wonderful eateries, we've got shopping, we've got beautiful trails and bike paths, and a quality of life that I think most people at some point in their lives want to take advantage of, but it's usually post-retirement. And that's a great question because it's also another lesson that was learned during this pandemic-fueled housing shortage. Live it now.
Right. Yeah, I think that people probably do appreciate Cape Cod more, especially because it's hard to even live here now.
It is because of housing, yes.
Right. When it comes to moving to Cape Cod or purchasing new property on Cape Cod, how can buyers vet neighborhoods?
That can be very challenging, especially because the Cape has so many different towns and character and charm. How do you narrow down what you want? One of the first things I tell my buyers is drive around the different areas. If you have a seasoned agent, most of the agents will have a suggested driving tour you should do, because what's incredible about Cape Cod is we have cities, we have our towns, but we also have villages in every town. And every village has a different charm, different character, offers something different. So for a buyer trying to vet, you want to get to know that town. It's good to do research about taxes, what amenities are included, also what beaches are available, the school systems, shopping, what's offered year-round versus what's seasonal. There's a lot of different things to know, but a good agent will help navigate that process as well.
So what sort of research can be done online by potential buyers?
That is a good question, and there's a lot of research that can be done online. You can find out information on the school systems. You can find out information on the different neighborhoods, looking into the different cities, towns, what they offer. A great thing to look at is tax rates, because shockingly, Cape Cod has some of the lowest taxes in the state. Additionally, look into beaches. Determine what beaches are offered in the town.
Why beaches? I understand looking into school districts, but why beaches?
A lot of buyers come to the Cape for beaches, but your version of what might be important in a beach could be different. Some buyers like freshwater beaches. Other buyers want saltwater. Some like Cape Cod Bay, the cooler water of the bay, and the beautiful scenery. Others like the more swimmable south side of the Cape and the beaches there off the Sound. So you want to look into what do you prefer, what is your preference, but then also what beaches are offered in the town, because towns offer beach stickers, and with that beach sticker you're able as a resident to use those beaches. Some towns offer more variety than others, and if that's important to you, it's nice to know what's available.
You said you live in Osterville?
I do.
If you could live anywhere else on Cape Cod, where would it be? And for what reason?
It's tricky. I'm a realtor. I know all the reasons why you want to live in all these towns.
That's why I'm asking.
There's so many different options for homeowners. So I've lived in Falmouth, in West Falmouth. I adore Falmouth. I have clients that live in Chatham. I love their town. I honestly can picture myself living in almost any town on Cape Cod, but I am very happy in Osterville. There's really nowhere like Cape Cod. Cape Cod is one of the most beautiful places in the world, I'd venture to say.
It's really unique. I think it's the
is.
most beautiful place I've lived.
Agreed. Agreed. That's why I'm raising my kids here.
Well, Livia, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Christian Garnett, and this is Cape Media News Insights.
Be sure to catch the full interview on Comcast Channel 99 next week. Thank you for joining us this evening. Tune in next week for more hyperlocal news that matters. For Cape Media News, I'm Maxie Davidson.